My name is Chris Gethin, and what I aim to bring to you is inspiration, motivation from clients, everything that will allow you to evolve as a human being. Hello, everybody. Chris Gethin here, and welcome to another episode of the Chris Gethin podcast. This is a client spotlight episode. So the client that I have on the other end, Josh Dollar, wanted to actually put on size, wanted to put on weight, and at the same time, work on his health span, reduce his biological age. So we did a test at the beginning. This is only a very short time, keep in mind, like 12 weeks, for a Glycan Age test where you test your biological age. I do it every year, trying to reduce my biological age. So it's very, very difficult for somebody to make a difference in such a short time. Sometimes it actually goes the other way, where actually people's biological age increases because of the sudden influx of inflammation. Then your body finds that hormesis, that hormetic state, and then starts to reduce that inflammation as the body adapts. But anyway, without further ado, Josh, welcome to the show. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me. I'm super excited to be on here.
It's quite a coincidence. We were just having a chat now before starting. You've just coincidentally moved to Boise, Idaho. How's that move been for you, buddy?
It's been a lot of fun. It's a big difference for me, definitely. I grew up in California, so I grew up Central California in the Stockton area, and then ended up moving to San Diego, lived there for about 10 years. So I'm used to very high population, either the Bay Area or San Diego, and city, really, really fast moving, fast paced. And then I moved here to Boise. It's a lot slower, a lot more relaxed. Everyone's a lot more interested in more outdoorsy things here, which is super fun. I'm loving it. And I've been able to hit the slopes a lot this winter. So I'm liking it a lot. Big difference, but I'm liking it.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, Stockton area, a couple of my friends, the Diaz brothers from there. And then San Diego. I was just in San Diego a couple of weeks ago. I love the place called The Gym. I trained there with another podcast guest. They'll be coming out soon, Wes Watson. So whenever I'm down there, we try to get in a workout there. I love that area. But glad you're here to enjoy the four seasons and the mountains. And of course, you got the snowboards in the background. So not to bust those bad boys out. So tell us a little bit about your background from a physical and a health standpoint. Because looking at your before pictures here, actually, I'm going to show them up. So that's the before pictures. Okay, and you can see from the side, and you actually look pretty good. So there's going to be a lot of people here that are going to go, you know what, he looks really, really good there. But your goal was to put on size. You wanted to put on muscle. So let's have a look at those after pictures just 12 weeks later. So you can see, I remember us chatting that, you had a problem with the connection of your chest, getting that mind-muscle connection and developing your chest. But you can see you've developed a very, very good chest there. Shoulders, abs are very, very defined and full. And you put on a decent size on your quads there that we can see from the front. Your delts, your biceps, and then obviously the back. I love this because you can't fake the back. Let me start with the back again. That's the before. And then I'm going to scroll to the after 12 weeks. Here we can see the muscle, you can see the lats, you can see the lumbar, your traps. So you put on a decent amount of size there. Remind me, I've got it here. I want to make sure that it's correct though. How much weight did you put on in those 12 weeks?
So at the beginning of the 12 weeks, I want to say I was about 142, 143 roughly. And then by the end, I was a solid 159 to 160.
That's a lot of weight. It's like almost 20 pounds there. So what was your struggles? Because a lot of people, when they're dieting down, they have to cut calories, increase their cardio, feeling very lethargic. Now you're going the opposite way. You're putting on a considerable amount of muscle in a very, very short time frame. What were your main struggles in order to put on that size?
It was definitely the biggest struggle for me came to the constant eating is kind of what it felt like every 2 to 3 hours roughly, and not like little meals, kind of what I'm used to. They were a bit bigger than what I'm used to, and then gradually growing those meals throughout the program too, having a little bit more and more, and cutting out all of the BS. Like I'm a big snacker. I'm a gamer too. So like I've been playing World of Warcraft since 2008. So like when you think of like the typical sitting down with a box of pizza and a Mountain Dew, like that was me for a while too. And then on top of that, I do a lot of cardio because even though I'm a gamer and I do all this other stuff, I'm very active. I do a lot of martial arts, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, and I do that 2 or 3 times a week at least. So I'm getting a lot of cardio in, burning a lot of calories. So I have to eat a lot in order to gain that type of mass, So that was definitely the biggest issue for me, was not only getting in the amount of food that I needed to, but the right food too, cutting out all the stuff that is just filling me up, but not getting me anything. Basically everything that you gave me that told me to eat, that's what I followed exactly. I didn't cut any corners. I didn't cheat at all. I've taken some of your online courses in the past and like followed the diet plan pretty good, but still cheated. But then when I finally pulled the trigger and worked with you personally and took it serious and actually applied everything exactly the way you said, I mean, the results kind of speak for themselves. I was able to actually make a big difference in all the work that I was putting in.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that a lot of people misconstrue what it takes to kind of bulk and put on size, where they will justify eating burgers and pizzas and bad food, thinking, okay, I just need calorie. Well, a calorie isn't a calorie. You're going to get a nutritional calorie, or you're going to an empty calorie, or a pro-inflammatory calorie, coming from pizzas, a lot of high omega-6, a lot of ingredients that we can't even spell or pronounce, let alone our body recognize. So it goes the other way, where you have to have dense nutrition along with that volume of food as well. So when eating all of this food, what was the inconvenient part of it? Was it just it took so much time to eat or prepare, or did it make you feel lethargic because you had to digest so much food?
A little bit of everything. And at the time too, the job that I was working was a lot of hours. So it was kind of a juggle being able to meal prep and get all those meals in when I needed to, because I couldn't always take the time to eat, when I could, I had to figure it out. That was kind of what the hardest part was even though I had this job that didn't line up necessarily with the goals that I had with you, I made that decision. I had to figure it out. So getting around that was really tough. The meal prep and making sure all that was on point was also like a really big hurdle for me, for sure.
So like you obviously had quite a good metabolism. I don't know how often you were eating bad foods such as pizzas and burgers and whatnot as you were sat in your ass gaming basically, but you were pretty lean in the beginning, so, you obviously have more of an ectomorph body type. So it requires a lot of calories basically to pack on that mass. Now, prior to, you said working with me, you were obviously weight training before, now you've just changed the nutritional protocol. But let's talk about what you did for a job and how many hours were you working, so people can understand some of the challenges, not just obviously from a nutritional consumption standpoint, but just organization and preparation standpoint.
Yeah. So I actually kind of had 2 things I was doing at the time. I had a business that I was running kind of like as a side business, as a hobby, that ended up taking a little bit more time than I was expecting it to. On top of I was working full-time catering and bartending at a restaurant. I was doing that. And then I also had this side business that was supposed to just kind of bring me some side income, but kind of ended up doing a little bit more than that. So I was trying to juggle both. And then on top of that, I had personal goals where, I wanted to build my body to be a certain way. And I've also been really into martial arts for the last 10, 15 years at least. So I have those goals as well, which is why I've always been pretty lean too, because I've always been very active, football, basketball growing up. Like I've never had an off season since I was a kid. There was always some sort of activity going on, even though I've always been a gamer too. My parents kind of always made sure I had that balance of gaming and make sure I had that physical activity as well. So it's kind of ingrained in me.
Right. Okay. You had bartending and stuff like that. Were you having to work really late nights? What sort of hours are we talking with both of those jobs together? Weekends as well?
Yeah, weekends, holidays. With catering too, it was super random. Sometimes I wouldn't even get my schedule until like the day before, where they're telling me, hey, we need you at 7 a.m. tomorrow for this event that just got booked. And it's 8 p.m. the night before, So I'm like, okay, now I have to schedule out my whole day tomorrow because it's now different than what I was expecting. So I was dealing with that on a daily basis. And so it was just a lot of juggling, and with bartending too, it's constant movement. You're on your feet, running back and forth. It was a very busy restaurant in San Diego. So there was zero downtime from the second you clock in to the second you clock out. You're either bussing tables, running food, getting drinks, doing something, So it's very constant movement and a lot of mental process throughout it.
Yeah, so it goes to show that you definitely have to control your environment and not let yourself get controlled by it to a certain
Yeah.
degree. With those challenges, I'm assuming that you had to just carry your meals with you pretty much everywhere. And my assumption is as well that you had to eat a majority of those meals cold as opposed to warm.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of a benefit to working at the restaurant was sometimes I could, because I worked at a barbecue restaurant and we could do when I was having chicken as my meal, I could make sure that I got my chicken breast cooked on the grill with none of the sauce, nothing, I could just throw it back there. And I had this system that I made and people would make fun of me for it actually, because I would always do a big circle around the restaurant. And every time I would go through the back, and right in the middle of the break in the back was our break room. And I had my meals sitting there like stacked up. I would have 2 or 3 a day. And every time I went in the back, I would take a scoop of food and I would just gobble it down and try to get it down before I got back out. And I would just basically do circles all throughout my shift. And throughout the shift, I would just try to get that meal down as quick as possible. So it wasn't really like, I had a 10-minute break every now and then your one lunch break. But other than that, I still had 2 meals that I needed to get in, So it was a matter of just getting it in somehow, figuring it out.
That's phenomenal. But, one of your meals may have taken you like 30 minutes to consume then,
Depending on how busy, yeah.
Yeah. So did you have to rely on shakes a lot of the time, protein shakes, meal replacement shakes, or anything like that? Or were you pretty good at just sticking to your solid foods?
I was pretty good with solid foods. I did do a lot of supplementation. I'm a big fan of the Cage Muscle products anyway. I've been using them for a long time. So I would always have my post-workout and I did the casein at night. And then I would usually have a whey throughout the day, like in the middle of the day. But that was just kind of have an extra filler of protein and everything. It wasn't really anything to replace a meal. As far as the actual meals were going, I was pretty solid on getting all those every day.
Okay. And did you have an idea in your mind when you started working with me, how much size that you wanted to put on during the 12 weeks, or you just knew that you wanted to pack on a bit of muscle?
I knew I just wanted size. I never really expected myself to put on as much size as I did, to be honest, because I've been trying for a very long time to bulk. Like I said, I grew up kind of with fitness and sports ingrained in me. And I've always been the smallest kid on the football team, smallest kid on the wrestling team. I wasn't even 120 pounds when I graduated high school. Putting on weight has always been hard for me. I didn't really think that I could put on a lot of weight very quickly. I just wanted to put on something and see what would happen when I actually dedicated myself and worked with someone like yourself who knew what they were doing instead of just reading articles online and then kind of half-assed following these programs that you see and trying to get in as much calories as possible. That was my mindset for a long time too. Eat In-N-Out, eat pizza, just get those calories in because I'm going to go burn them anyway because I do so much activity, but never worked.
Yeah. And then, obviously you do so much cardio as well, which can be complicated because, if you're trying to put on size, you don't want to overextend yourself with cardio because that's even more calories now that you have to compensate in order to put on size. So did you find that, what other improvements did you find in yourself? Did you see, or any negatives even? Did you find that, your strength increased a lot? Were you able to sleep better? How was your mental state and your overall lifestyle changed during that 12 weeks?
So I actually started tracking my sleep during this. And something really cool that I noticed was I would reach my deep sleep, that deepest level, way more often on your program than I ever did. And my reasoning for that, I think, was just because when you are at that lowest or at that deepest level of sleep, that's when your body is kind of rebuilding itself at its max potential, basically. I had such great nutrition and I was working out so hard and I was getting connections in my muscles that I was never getting before, like in my chest and in my back. Like I was getting these workouts, these pumps that I've never had before. So my soreness was kind of on another level, but not like because my nutrition was so good, it wasn't like killer. But when I would go to sleep, my body wanted to repair itself so bad and it had everything that it needed that as soon as I went down and I closed my eyes, my body was like, cool, recharge mode. Let's rebuild. Let's get ready for tomorrow. And I got really, really good sleep, better than I ever have. That was the biggest thing that I noticed was I had great sleep when I would wake up at 6 a.m. the next day with my plan ready to go and my dog ready to go on our run. I felt good, ready. The meals never made me feel, sometimes I would feel full. Always I would feel full, but I would never feel tired full because there's a difference there, and I never felt like sluggish and just like, oh crap, I got to get up and go do this run or I got to go do this. No, it was never like that. It was like, all right, cool, let's get it going.
Not only feeding your body with the right fuel that it required, but your brain with the right fuel as well.
Yeah.
To stay focused, when you're eating, I'm referring to pizzas and burgers because that's what you mentioned before. But
Hmm.
being it pro-inflammatory can lead to a chemical response in your brain, which creates imbalance. Could be lethargy, could be anxiety, could be stress, whatever. So now you're not having that inflammation that could lead to that chemical reaction. So there should be a lot more mental stability. There should be, not always the
Hmm.
case. Out of curiosity, you participate in a lot of other sports. How were your other sports affected in a positive or negative way?
I felt my cardio 10x for sure. And something that I noticed too was at first, I didn't really put on a lot of muscle. I leaned out a lot at first, and then the muscle started to come. And then my strength was just like on another level when it came to like jujitsu and grappling. And it may have just been because of how much my back developed. I think I got the most progression out of the entire program in my back, being able to hold and pull people and pull them in and being able to hold their gis and like kind of my strength at that point was like unmatched. It had never been that strong, and I had never been able to control people in that well before. So it definitely helped me a lot in that aspect when it came to grappling. And then cardio overall just was through the roof. Like I found myself being able to go 3-4 rounds of wrestling without getting super exhausted, which whereas before 2 rounds and I'd be wanting to vomit.
Yeah, I think that's a funny thing as well, where people are participating in stuff that is a little bit more functional or endurance based. And I think that the extra muscle mass is going to have a negative impact. Of course, you can go overboard and have too much muscle, which will require too much oxygen. But as long as you're doing it correctly and you're still working on your cardio whilst you're packing on size, it shouldn't have a huge negative impact. I think people
Mm-hmm.
just have this connotation that you just can't do both. And that's why I really like hybrid athleticism, being able to be a certain weight and have a certain look, but be able to do, go for a run, go for a 100-mile bike ride or whatever, It may not be the fastest out there, but it can be done. They can live in both worlds together. So did other people around you notice the change in you in such a short time, whether it be your sparring partners or even people outside just seeing your physique start to grow?
Yeah, actually, and that was something that I found shocking was for the first time ever, people would look at me and be like, "Whoa, dude, you actually look like you put on some size. Like you look a lot bigger. What happened these last few weeks, And not only that, but just I feel like I got a lot more respect from my girlfriend too. I think she didn't think that I had something like this in me because she had never seen me commit to something this hard and make so many sacrifices because I had never done ice baths before and I had never committed this hard to a meal plan. And like, because I sometimes would do meal plans, but I would always cheat at least once or twice a week. This was no cheating to a point where it was actually her 21st birthday and I took her to Vegas and we went out to dinner and I took her to these places and I did not cheat the whole time that we were in Vegas and we were at the restaurants. And I ordered a salad with the stuff on all the stuff on the side, a salmon, no butter, no oil, everything, all that. And she had like a filet mignon with lobster mac and cheese. And when they brought the food out, like, oh, the salmon and salad for the lady. And she was like, I got the steak. They handed it over to me. I was like, I'm the one on the diet. Thank you.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious. But she really, after that, saw a lot more in me and saw a lot more that I could commit myself to something and make a big change in myself. And I think our relationship has actually been a lot better from that too. So it's got benefits all around, both physical, emotional, and mental, just from all of these biohacks and just daily life principles and habits that I've had to instill just really made a difference pretty much everywhere in all the pillars of life.
That's great. I'm just interested, like, obviously it has a transcendence effect in your relationship. Did having this routine and such, and, investing in the quality of yourself, your body and your brain, did it have a transcendence effect on any other areas of your life, such as your career or anything that you can think of?
Yeah, actually, it kind of just gave me that continuous drive to just kind of keep driving, getting better and building more and more. And when it came to my professional life, the reason I moved to Boise was because I had a job opportunity to come out here to work with a new startup that had to do with that side business that I had going on. And because I had so much kind of rolling with that, I was putting so much effort into our program, it gave me all that more motivation and ability to problem solve in my side business, which ended up getting me this new job opportunity that was a big upgrade from what I had. And then 6 to 8 months later, I had another opportunity that came on top of that, which is one that I had just started at the beginning of this year, 2022. So it's only been about a little over 3 months that I've been at this new position. That was an upgrade from the other upgrade. It really all ladders and it all leads up to the next thing, as long as you continuously drive for more and keep getting better and stop the excuses. There's always an issue. There's always some problem that you have to work around. But as long as you're able to work around those issues and you're able to figure out a solution to those problems, all these areas are just going to continuously grow because you want it to, and you continuously put an effort to make it happen.
Doing things like, your ice baths or, cold showers, that will create a little bit more mental stability so you don't become so emotionally charged within a reaction. You look at things with a little bit more perspective, I find. Speaking of biohacks, what are some of the biohacks, tell the listeners and the viewers, some of the biohacks that you do on a daily basis that people may find interesting?
Yeah, the ice baths are something that are truly like game changing in so many ways that they can't even really be explained. It's to the point where I try to tell people until you start doing it daily, like you're not going to be able to understand the benefits, because I can sit here and list them all to you, but it's going to sound like the same as you hear from everybody else telling you that you get from ice baths. It's like until you start doing it, that's when you'll understand truly the benefits that you get from it. And it's really insane. Also, I have these right here real quick. I don't have them on right now, but I always wear these every night whenever
your blue blockers.
Always got the blue blockers on, especially when I'm gaming at night, and the lights go off. You got to have those on. Tracking my sleep, things like that. Earthing, plenty. I try to get plenty of earthing in. I live right here on a lake, so I always try to go outside with my dog and get a walk and kind of walk my feet through the sand, walk into the water. Sometimes even after my workouts, that's where I'll do my cold plunge. Is I'll go jump in the lake and kind of sit and kind of like wiggle into the dirt and just kind of lay there in the lake water for a few minutes. And it's amazing.
Yeah, perfect time of year to do it here in Boise as well. That's pretty bloody.
Oh, it's freezing. Break the ice on the lake and then jump right off the dock.
Yeah, exactly. And correct me if I'm wrong, as my memory serves me, I believe with, in such a short time, because with the Glycan Age Testing, which is a testing protocol that can test your glycans, which will help dictate your biological age over your chronological age, that I believe, are you 26, 27 now?
26.
26. And your biological age has basically stayed the same. So as your chronological age has got older, your biological age in relation got younger, correct?
Mm-hmm.
By 1 year?
I mean, I'm young anyway, as it is, so I didn't expect to see a ton of fluctuation, but it did, reduce by the 1 year. And as time goes on, my theory is as I continue with this process, because it's become a lifestyle for me and a life process for me, my chronological age is going to continue to grow, while my biological age is going to pretty much not stay stagnant, but it's going to be following behind much, much slower than it would normally for the average person.
Yeah, and I'd say that's nothing to turn your nose up at. In 12 weeks to do that is pretty phenomenal. It's pretty phenomenal to do that, because the reason why Glycan Age wanted to partner with me to do the pilot study is because they hadn't worked with athletes before where they'd seen a biological age reduction. It usually increases because athletes usually go through a lot of inflammation. And a lot of that inflammation isn't just acute, it can be systemic as well. Overtraining, undersleeping, undernourishing, and not doing a lot of the biohacks, such as getting the sunlight, blocking the artificial light, which again can raise your cortisol levels, not allowing your melatonin to release. So you're not in that calm state of repair, rejuvenation, and recovery. It's phenomenal that you're still doing that. And it'd be interesting to see what your next Glycan Age test result would be, For somebody at such a young age, like I wish I was doing that at a younger age. It wasn't until I actually got mold toxicity where I started going through that rabbit hole and really, working on my health. Up until then, I was just working on my physique, thinking whatever I was doing was improving my health span when it actually wasn't. So for you to do that, and I started figuring that out in my 40s, not in my 20s. So I applaud you for doing that now. And have you influenced anybody else to kind of follow, a similar sort of structure, whether it be with the training, nutrition, supplementation, the biohacks, the lifestyle?
I mean, my girlfriend's definitely gotten a lot more like in charge of everything, because she had goals as well, but she had let a lot of excuses kind of get over that. And after seeing me go through that, she was definitely able to see how I maneuvered around all my excuses and made it happen anyway. And she's kind of been able to do that as well. So she made it, that was a big difference with her. As far as everybody else, I don't socialize a whole lot anymore. I work from home now. It's really just her in my life right now. So she's the one who had the really big influence for me doing this. And I did it kind of for both of us. So it was really awesome to kind of see her be able to make that change and apply what I've learned to her own life as well.
That's cool. And maybe both of you will be ordering the salad next time you go to Vegas, unless it's
yeah.
or whatever, you know. But that's cool. And, you know, as you mentioned before about going, you're in Vegas for a long weekend and you stuck to the diet. And I think this is what creates a lot of apprehension with people, because they think they have to go all in and they have to become hermits in order to make progress, to make change. When it isn't the case, you can make baby steps. You still can go out and socialize. You can still go to a restaurant and make healthy food choices. The waiter may need to go and, you know, have a word with the chef, because they've never been asked a lot of these questions before. But it can be done. Sometimes you have to be a little bit inconvenient to the person making the order. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's an investment in your health and your future. You just have to think about it. You need to prepare. Like I said, control your environment and not allow yourself to get controlled by it. Mm-hmm. So for people out there listening or viewing this, you know, and they're on the fence thinking about, you know what, maybe I should make a change. Maybe I should make healthier food choices for myself and for my kids or my loved ones around me. But, you know, a lot of people have the best intentions and they think, well, I'll wait till Monday. I'll wait till January 1st. But, you know, instead they should obviously not wait at all, and because there's no time like now time. What would you say to those people that are on the fence and thinking about it, you know, and maybe they're in a rut where they're making poor food choices, they're gaming and they're eating pizza and burgers, you know, what's your suggestion?
I mean, as cliche as it sounds, you really just kind of have to make the decision and start now. You know, don't make that I'll start next week, or I'll do it Monday, or I'll do it when it's convenient, because it's never going to be convenient. And it's never really going to work out. You just kind of have to get up and start doing it, whether it's working around injuries, because I've had a handful of injuries. I've already had 4 surgeries at this point. So whether you're working around surgeries or you're working around work, whatever it is, if you put in the effort on a daily basis, everything's going to get better from it. So if you're wondering, should I start now? If you start now, everything's just going to continue to get better from here on out. You know, if you wait 3 weeks or you wait a month to get started, that's a month of progression that you could have already had, and you could have been a month ahead of yourself. You know, your life could have been that much better or a month from now than where it is now. I mean, yeah, it's cliche. Pretty much everything I said was kind of cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. You just really got to make the decision, and you got to start doing it today and just keep it consistent.
And just out of interest, you know, what surgeries have you had that you're kind of working around?
So I've actually had surgery on both of my wrists. I would show you the scars, but you probably can't see them on camera. But both wrists I've had cysts that I've had to get removed that were starting to fuse to my bones. So they had to get those cut out. And then my left knee, I've had surgeries on for meniscal repair. First one was to try to repair it. It ended up tearing again. It was an old wrestling injury that got hurt again. And then they decided to just kind of remove it because it was unrepairable. So I actually have half of my meniscus that's missing on my left side. And then on the right side, I currently have a torn meniscus and a torn LCL that I've been kind of just rehabbing and working around, because I didn't want to go through another surgery, because based off of everything I've learned, not only from your program, but from other professionals that I've researched as well, I've implemented a lot of this different styles of natural healing and not natural healing, but like repairing processes for joints and everything. And my life is a million times better now from doing all these programs, because I wasn't even able to walk before. I couldn't do a full squat. Now I have full range of motion. I can shoot in wrestling again for takedowns without any knee pain. So it's been pretty amazing.
That's phenomenal. That's awesome. Yeah, that's good. And a lot of people think that if I have an injury, now I've got to be, you know, bed bound. I need a rest and recover. When a lot of the time, you know, obviously you have to be smart with your rehab, but you have to move that area. You need to strengthen the area to protect the connective tissue of your tendons, ligaments, or your skeletal structure. You know, like I've had a lot of people that have had lower back issues, especially in India, dependent on that person the first thing I get them to do is back work, hyperextensions, deadlifts, rack lifts, or whatever, where maybe their doctor, of course, I'm generalizing doctors now, would tell them, don't do anything. I just want you to have bed rest for the next few months.
Yeah, rest.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the time, that's the worst thing you can do. So, but thank you ever so much for your time here, Josh. I really, really appreciate you, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure training you, listening to your story. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we sign off here?
No, this was awesome. I really appreciate you having me. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm really excited that I got to get on here and do this with you, because it was a blast working with you, and I'm really excited to be able to show off the progress that I had. And hopefully, if there was anyone that's in a similar position as me with a similar lifestyle, or kind of going through kind of what I was going through, I hope they end up making the decision to get started, because it was a great decision that I made. And if it could influence somebody else, I'd be really excited.
I'm sure you'll influence many, many people here. So if anybody does want to reach out to you and ask you any questions, because it is unusual for some people to see someone put on so much size in a short time, especially if they're an ectomorph, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, best place is Instagram. That's pretty much the only social that I'm on. And my handle is @moneysinmyname. My last name is Dollar, so you can just look up Josh Dollar. I might be the only person that shows up. But yeah, Money's in my name on Instagram. Give me a follow. And if you ever have any questions, give me a DM.
Money's in my name. I love it. It. Well, thank you very much, Josh. I really, really appreciate you. So this is me, Chris, and Josh signing out today of the Chris Gethin podcast. If you do like this podcast, please do like, comment, subscribe, share it with others. And if you do have any questions, again, you can go to my YouTube if you've got any questions for me, and you can ask them in the comment box. And until next week, we are out. Thank you ever so much for listening. My name is Chris Gethin, and I am out.